Thank you for tuning in to Macroview Television, and welcome to another brand new edition of the Taiwan Outlook, the program that lets you see the different faces and also hear the different voices of Taiwan. I'm your host, Ray Guo. And we know Taiwan has one of the most vibrant economies in the world. However, we do face a challenge in terms of aging population and low birth rate. On today's program, we're delighted to have Professor Tsay Ching-Lung, who is a professor at the Institute of Asia Study at Tamkang University here in Taipei, Taiwan, to talk about the kinds of challenges that we face in terms of aging population and also low birth rate. Welcome to the program, Professor Tsay.
Thank you very much, yes. Mr. Wu.
Yes.
It's delighted to be here with you to discuss about the population of Taiwan.
Sure. It's an honor to have you here on the program. And Professor Tsay, if I may start off with something very generic, can you share with us what is the definition of demography? What is the study of demographics?
Okay. Demography is field of study of population, any kind of population, and especially for the human population.
Okay.
So usually people understand demography as population studies, but in fact, demography is a more narrow definition of population studies.
Okay, good.
Population study refers to the relationship between demographic changes and other socio-economic development or the conditions. But the demography with the emphasis on the component of demographic change. So we talk about birth rate, death rate, migration, and then as aging, as the
other social economic conditions.
Yes.
So in terms of demographic studies, you can also do it on animals. For example, some of the species that are being extinct, that can be also a subject for demographic studies.
Right. You can apply the same theory.
Okay. We understand, as I said at the beginning of the program, Taiwan does have one of the most vibrant economies in the world. Of course, over the last 40 years, when our economy just took off, a very important reason for the success that we have enjoyed is because we had a steady supply of very educated and well-trained personnel and manpower to supply the forces needed for our economy to grow. However, we understand that today we have the lowest birth rate in the world. And this is something so serious that just from the year 2009 to 2010, that we have decreased in terms of birth rate 20,000 babies. Okay, this is very significant, and President Ma Ying-jeou recently has identified this issue as a national security issue for all of Taiwan. What is the reason, as you can see, Professor Tsay, that's causing the low birth rate in Taiwan? How serious is the problem?
The decline of fertility in Taiwan has been for a long time. Since if we take the period of a post-war period, we can see the decline of the so-called total fertility in Taiwan. And then currently, as you mentioned, in the year of 2009, we had the lowest so-called total fertility in the world. That is 1.03. That means on average, each woman, each female in this society would, in her life, only 1.03 children.
Yes.
And that is far below the level of replacement, what we call the replacement fertility. That's referred to the total fertility of 2.1. And actually, Taiwan has reached that level in the year of 1984.
And there are many reasons why a couple doesn't want to have a child or more than one child. Some of which may be economic, some of which may be interpersonal, some of which may be family. And as far as your study shows you, what are some of the major reasons that people don't want to raise a child in Taiwan?
I think if we think it's what is children mean to us, then in a very traditional society or in the early age of development, that children is an asset to you then, because a lot of activity productions, you need the human forces to it. But later on now, in the advanced society, that human forces is not the only one or the most important factor in production. So now we treat children as our pleasure. We would like to enjoy having children. But at the same time, the cost of raising children has been increased.
Yes,
skyrocketed. And that is one of the very, very important factors people mention about the reason for reducing fertility.
Okay, all right. And also on the other end of the spectrum, other than low birth rate, we also have an aging population. What is the breakdown of our current population in Taiwan out of the 23 million people? For example, do you have numbers to show us that what's the percentage of people in Taiwan that is 65 and over?
Yes. Actually, population aging.
Yeah. We have an aging index.
Aging index, right?
Yes.
The aging index is the ratio of the population who is 65 and over to the population who is below 15. So that's the aging population.
All right.
And that shows the level of the aging, the level of aging. But another concept I would like to mention is that the speed of aging. And for each individual person, we know we are aging every day, right?
Of course.
And for the society, we have this 65 as a cutting point. So currently, the aging, the percentage of population 65 and over in Taiwan is about 10.6%.
Really?
And that is not
that is not very
far
high
compared to Japan currently, right? But the point is that the speed from moving from one step to another is very shocking in Taiwan.
Really?
That we take the example, like in the demography study, we usually take 7% as a cutting point. That's population start to age, or the aging population.
All right.
And then when the percentage of 65 and over reach 14%. 14%.
Okay.
Then we say this is age population.
Okay.
And then when it's rising to 20%, then that is a super age population.
Okay.
And Japan has moved to that. But the time for Japan to move from 14 to 20 is 12 years.
12 years.
But the prediction for Taiwan is only 9 years.
9 years.
So that is we know that Japan is the most aged population.
So that is a warning.
That's a warning for the speed of aging.
All right. Of course, when we look at the aging index, we probably need to separate into two categories when you look at the different countries around the world. One category is, of course, for the developed economy, and the other category is for the undeveloped or underdeveloped economies. Because of these two categories certainly provide different kinds of socioeconomic, medical, social safety networks, to support their population. So, do you think that in terms of the social network that we need, that we have enough resources paid to this group of people in our country today that is aging, and also the population as a whole is aging fast? Do we have enough resources in this area to take care of these people 65 and over, in your opinion?
Yes, actually that's one of the worries I have. And that's why I'm very interested in discussing the problem or the issues related to population aging. Of course, we know that our current aging index is still only 65%. But the prediction to 2050 it's going to be over 400. It's 413%. Yes,
yeah,
and that's, as I said, that's the problem of speed of aging. And what would be the difficulties or the challenges we are going to face is that who are going to care the aged?
Yeah, of course.
And then, as you mentioned, the long life expectancy prolonged, then means you have more risk to be disabled, to need health care. And we understand a lot of activity in the world, especially in production. We can have more capital investment, so the capital intensity. But for health care, there's a very clear limit. Then we cannot increase the investment of capital, and then we need the person. So we need people to care.
The final question for this part of the program is, let's go back to the low birth rate. Professor Tsay, in your studies, have you noticed anything, maybe in terms of birth rate, that will go up and down according to the Chinese zodiac sign? For example, this year is the year of the golden rabbit, but last year was the year of the golden tiger. Tiger maybe is a year for people thinking that a good year to have a son because it's more masculine. Does that happen? Do you notice the difference up and down in birth rate because of changes in the zodiac sign?
Yes, it's clear, and we can show the historical experience, but that is only a sudden change, and then it would come back to the trend.
And probably the change is not very much either. Maybe a year, for example, golden rabbit, maybe people thinking of having a daughter, for example. Maybe the number of female babies will go up just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And then may have some concentration, and then the next year you will see
you will leveled out again.
Yes.
I want to thank Dr. Tsay for the overall comprehensive overview of what's happening in Taiwan in our population. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue this very interesting and also informative conversation with Professor Tsay Ching-Lung from the Tamkang University. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the second segment of today's program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Rick Guo. We will continue our conversation with Professor Tsay Ching-Lung from the Tamkang University's Institute of Asia Studies. We're going to talk about Taiwan's demographic challenges and also aging population and the low birth rate. Dr. Tsay, you're an expert in demography. We understand that besides the aging population and also low birth rate, we have some other population problems that our government and our people have to face. What are some of the other population problems that we have in Taiwan today?
Yes, I think we have a lot of challenges, but the root of these challenges is population aging. And behind that is the fertility decline. So we have to take care of the aged population. So, and as I mentioned earlier, that we would face the shortage of manpower to care the elderly. So one of these possible solutions, and as we currently doing, is that the import of foreign workers, the caretakers from Southeast Asian countries. And currently we have about 370 workers from Southeast Asia, and about half of them are in care services. And the majority of them are from Indonesia, and followed by those from Vietnam.
And in terms of the kinds of regulations that we have regarding immigration workers to Taiwan, do you think that there may be regulations that needs to be amended? For example, one of the famous lawyers in Taiwan, Mr. Cheng-Lung Tsay, recently petitioned our government, especially the legislative yuan, to consider the extension of these migrant workers working in Taiwan, especially in domestic care. And do you think such an amendment should become a serious subject for further discussions in the LY and in the society? Since these domestic workers will soon become part of the family, somebody who's indispensable. Do you think that's an issue that we should be addressing?
Yes, I think that's surely to be one of the factors or one of the phenomena we have to face and then we have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And the reason for the extension of foreign workers, actually, mm-hmm. we did that before. We extend from 3 years to 6 years and then 6 to 9. Mm-hmm. And the major consideration would be that actually if the employer have to hire a new one, then there is a cost of training or the cost of getting used to. So from the employer's point of view, I think there's a good reason to ask
further
extension. And, but I think from the government point of view is the consideration whether the so-called temporary migration would become as a permanent immigration or not. And that's, I think, still the debating whether to what extent the extension can be.
Okay. And we look at another neighboring country in Southeast Asia, and that is Singapore. Singapore, of course, is a city-state. It has a population around 4.8 million today. And Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong has been certainly very active in terms of recruiting the so-called foreign talent into Singapore, because he believes that a continued supply of skilled and trained workers into Singapore is a very important element for Singapore's continued growth and prosperity. What do you think about Mr. Lee Hsien Loong's viewpoint? Do you agree with it? And do you think the same kind of thinking could be applied to Taiwan?
Yes, I think actually, Singapore has been well known for this policy. Yes. They would like to make good use of all the talents in the world. Mm-hmm. So they have a very aggressive immigration policy, especially toward the so-called high-level, high-skill personnel. Mm-hmm. So they have actually quite specific programs to encourage like the high-skilled, talented, even professors in Singapore.
Exactly.
As I know my friends at the National University Singapore Economics Department, they have faculty members, over 75 to 80% are non-Singaporean citizens.
Exactly.
Yes, so they think if the talents can do good for Singapore, then they have to work hard to get that. And I think Taiwan understands that. In some way, Taiwan is similar to Singapore in terms of resources limit. But of course, we have a bigger population. But the Taiwan's programs to attract the talented so far has been going on for a while, but we still did not see very significant
results.
Yes, improvement in that that aspect.
Okay, why? Why is it? Because I have a lot of friends in the foreign community here in Taiwan. They love Taiwan. Yes. Taiwan, for example, they think is one of the few places around the world that within 1 hour that you can take your car and go to the sea, go to the beach. Or alternatively, you can drive your car within 1 hour, you can go up to the mountain. And certainly, for example, in the city of Taipei, that you have all the amenities, the conveniences of a major international city. So they love Taiwan, they love Taipei. Why is it that we're not able to see very concrete results of recruiting top foreign talents into Taiwan? Do you think our government has a very clear and consistent immigration policy to attract the best people into Taiwan?
Yes, I think there are a lot of things we have to think about how Taiwan to attract the talents or to compete for talent.
Yeah,
but
with others.
With others. So that is very important. As we said, Singapore is aggressive. Actually, Hong Kong and then even China, Shanghai, they are very aggressive in getting these talents. And then, of course, you mentioned about the convenience or the advantages for staying in Taiwan. But I think that's a part of your life. But another part, you come to Taiwan is to work in Taiwan and how you can use up your talents and how you can be well established in this society. That's, I think it's even more important, or at least as important as your daily life.
Of course. And as we know, if we have an immigration policy, we're not only looking at attracting the best people available, we'll have to think about the other supporting resources and systems for these people to be comfortable and to be able to contribute their talents to the development of Taiwan. We're talking about transportation network, we're talking about education system, we're talking about protection of the environment, and we're talking about the process of assimilation. Whether Taiwan is becoming more international and people are getting easier access into the Taiwan society. Do you think, as a demographic expert, that these supporting elements are in place today for Taiwan to become more attractive, more international to many of the foreign talents? Do you think we're there yet?
Yes, I think, and I really appreciate the effort the government and the people in Taiwan have done. Actually, if we take an example of the development of Hsinchu Science Park, Industrial Park, and the process of attracting the talents of Taiwan origins back from U.S. to Taiwan, and then provide all the facilities, provide the education. I think you know the very well-known the bilingual schools. And that's a very successful program, and I think it's useful for us to think about that, but we need to revise that, because at this stage we would like to go a step even further, not only the talents of Taiwan origin, but including the talents of others. So that's, I think, we would have to relate it to how our immigration regulations to facilitate their in and out and their easy stay in Taiwan.
We understand that, Professor Tsay, last year it was a very important year in cross-strait relations. We'll talk about our relations with China a little later. But before we end this part of the program, that we signed the ECFA last year. And ECFA, of course, is a very important link for Taiwan to become more regionally and also internationally integrated. Now with ECFA is now being effective, implemented, how do you think that we can, do more in terms of providing better, infrastructure and more opportunities to attract those foreign talents to come to Taiwan and give them residency status? Do you think there's a need to review our overall immigration policy?
Yes, I think ECFA would provide the interactions and the opportunities for the talents who came to Taiwan to be here and then to take advantage of this newly development. So yes, I agree that in our immigration policy, we should have more thorough consideration to understand why these talents would like to be in Taiwan. And as you said, you have many friends. Actually, I really believe the best feedback is for the people who have the talents who have been in Taiwan to see.
Okay, good. We're going to take another short break on our program, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation with Professor Tsay Ching-Lung. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to our program. I'm your host, Ray Guo. We will continue our conversation with Professor Ching-Lung from the Institute of Asia Study at the Tamkang University. Professor Tsay, we want to talk about the importance, the correlation, the relationship, between the population and also economic development. We talked about recruiting foreign talent earlier in the program, and how about the immigration of labor into Taiwan, because we now have a lot of ongoing infrastructure projects, roads, bridges and other things, but we don't have enough supply of hard laborers in Taiwan. We need to get them imported, from elsewhere, like you said, from Southeast Asia. Do you think such a steady supply of foreign, laborers into Taiwan will be a critical factor as to Taiwan's continued economic development?
Yes, thank you. And I think that is the issue we can see from the 2 points. One is the short run, one is the long run.
Yes.
And then the short run is that, as you mentioned, the importation of workers for our current need.
Yes.
And that has been going on for
many
almost
years.
right. Yeah, we started in 1992 formally, but actually
almost 2 decades.
Yeah, almost 2 decades. And that is to meet the short-term, the immediate labor supply for the labor shortage we had. And as you mentioned, at the beginning of the program, we import them mainly for the construction workers. And then that's up until about the end of 1990s. But currently, half of the workers are for healthcare, for the elderly, rather than for the construction. So that is the change of the composition of the workers. And actually, that's reflect the change in demand of our society. We used to be need for construction rather than for manufacturing. And now half of them are in the healthcare, elderly care. And then another aspect of the supply is through the so-called marriage migration. And that's, I think, as you know, we have almost as many as for the so-called immigrant spouses in Taiwan as workers. And a lot of them, actually, they perform the same work as the workers. They join the Taiwan labor force. They meet the shortage of the Taiwan labor force in the Taiwan labor market. But one thing even more important I would like to mention is the children they have. And these children are going to be part of our labor force. And actually, the eldest of them is already over 15 years old.
That's right.
So that is another part of that.
And we also talked about earlier the successful example of the Hsinchu Science-Based Industrial Park. That was the program that started over 30 years ago, and we recruited some of the best talents originally from Taiwan, of course, but educated and was working in the United States and coming back to Taiwan. However, at the time, I think was former Premier Sun Yun-xuan, who had the vision of providing not just a place for for them to do their research and to do the scientific development, but also to help their families to return to Taiwan to assimilate. And this is a policy, of course, our government is very proud of. And we're now looking at the same kind of experience that's being duplicated in Taichung, Zhongke, and then Nanke in southern Taiwan. And we need to have more of these skilled Taiwanese laborers and their families coming back to Taiwan to get involved in our continued economic development, especially in the area of R&D, research and development. And do you think currently our government is doing enough to promote? Of course, I would imagine that the National Science Council is primarily responsible for this. Do you think that's enough effort and attention has been paid to attract the talented Taiwanese overseas to come back to Taiwan?
Yes, I think the situation is a little bit different
30 years ago.
Than 30 years. And for those returned to Hsinchu Science Park, they went to U.S. in the 50s or 60s, and then they educated there, and they did not have opportunities in Taiwan had they returned because the environment was not good. So they worked there and they gained experience, and most importantly, they moved on in the professional tracks to the top. But for some reason or for the limitation, the glass ceiling, they cannot move to the management, but they already in the mature age. So it was very, very right time for them to return to Taiwan with their skills and with Taiwan capital to develop the Hsinchu Science Park. So they can move from the professional skill track to the management, to the capital position. So that is very important. But fortunately, after that, actually, the development of Taiwan education, especially in science and technology, has
really taken off.
And then we had a lot of new students and who joined the field of science and technology. So actually, the current position would be more on how we are going to make good use of our own trained people to stay in Taiwan. And as we know, actually now the student going to the U.S., not like 30 years ago, they stay there, they will come back soon. So that's, I think, the Science Council has shifted to this position. But another challenge I would like to mention is the competition now with the globalization, how we are going to compete with our neighboring countries like Singapore.
Yes, and we also know that any type of policy making is very important that you have consensus. And the consensus building, of course, you have to have a solid foundation of analyzing the data, the materials that you have available about the population, about the future changes or the impacts that could have on the population development. So how can census be done completely and then also efficiently in terms of finding exactly what the population is going through, the kinds of changes, and then we have the data to develop the policy making and then the appropriate policy to help our continued economic growth and development.
Yes, I think
the census, the data that we gather. Yes.
Right. Census, actually, that's the worldwide activity.
Of course.
Every 10 years, and every country, almost every country will take the census.
Yes.
And Taiwan has been quite well known and well recognized in good population-related census data. And then particularly we have this registration system, and that's provide good framework for taking census.
Yes.
And actually, this year we are having this new census, and
Precisely.
and then actually the government take another step is that we don't really take the whole population, but sample of the population, and then we would combine and make good use of our administrative registration data together. That's I think it's good development area, and we will see how the quality can come out and how it can be compared to the previous census result.
But Professor Tsay, there is also discussion about elimination of the so-called residency, registration requirement, so-called 户籍制度. And there has been some, argument saying that this is something outdated. It doesn't serve any purpose. Maybe back 40, 50 years ago, it was very important. And as an expert in demography, do you think this is the time maybe that we need to look at whether we should keep the residency registration system that we have in Taiwan?
Yes, I think any system we need to review as it goes, right?
Yes, of course.
Of course, registration is a good system, at least in the beginning when we had this practice.
Of course.
Right. But whether we can have a replace, something to replace it, then that's what we have to think about first.
Okay.
So I'm open for discussion to think about this whether to replace it. But we have to know what is going to replace
it. Okay. What are some of the other systems that's being used elsewhere that serves similar functions as a registration system?
Yes, I think Social Security would be a system because everybody needs a social security. Probably the coverage would be as wide as a household registration, but still not completely the same.
And we don't have an internal consensus on the issue.
Yes, we need more discussion.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to take the final break on our program today, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation with Professor Tsay Ching-Lung from the Institute of Asia Studies at the Tamkang University. I'll see you in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the final segment of today's program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Ray Guo. We will continue our conversation with Professor Tsay Ching-Lung from the Institute of Asia Studies at Tamkang University. Professor Tsay, I know that in addition to your teaching and research responsibilities, that you are also the chairman of the Population Association of Taiwan. So you are involved in many of the international and regional exchanges with other experts and researchers that are in the demographic fields. What is the current state of exchanges between China and Taiwan in this area of population study?
Yes, thank you. And yes, I am the president of Population Association of Taiwan.
Yes.
And this association has good records or good history of interacting with China.
Okay.
And actually, we have had some formal or regular meetings of the Population Association of China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan.
Oh, okay.
And that
you meet on an annual basis every year?
Not
annually.
Not annually.
Okay.
Right. But we did that, and we did a few times.
Okay.
And then, in addition to that, actually, the Taiwan Population Association has a MOU with Japan Association and Korean Association. And then we have exchange of information of our activities and also the current demographic situation in each country. And recently, the Population Association of Thailand showed their interest and would like to join this endeavor, and they think that it's a good
opportunity. Yes. And also the fact is there an international governing body for all of the population associations around the world? For example, do you have a international association for population studies or something similar to that?
Yes, exactly. But the name is IUSSP.
Okay, IUSSP.
That's International Union for Scientific Study of Population.
Okay.
And that is based in Paris.
Well, Paris. Okay.
And the current president of this association is Professor Peter McDonald. Of Australia. And I would like to mention that actually the Taiwan Population Association is going to have the annual meeting this coming April, end of April. And we were very happy to be able to invite the president of IUSSP to give a keynote speech.
Yeah, I will imagine that in addition to your teaching responsibilities, you must be very busy with the annual event held in Taiwan this year. With all the best wishes to you on that.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And we know that we talked earlier about ECFA. ECFA was signed in June of 2010. And with now ECFA in place, in implementation, do you think that there will be more exchanges between the two sides on the population studies, and also what are some of the lessons or experiences that we can learn from each other between the experts from China and the experts in Taiwan?
Yes, I think the ECFA would bring opportunities for interchange between the two sides of the strait. And demography or population study, of course, is not except to that.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to seeing that. But here I would like to note that is when we have these international interactions and international cooperation, we start from the trade, we start from the investment, and then always the human movement is the last one. So the good movement and the capital movements are much easier. And I had experiences in attending many international discussions on this issue. And then, as you know, we have WTO in the world. But so far, we haven't seen any similar organization in the migration or in the human movement aspect.
Okay. We also understand that you are a member of the Chinese Taipei delegation to the third, Human Resources Ministerial meeting at APEC. This is possibly the most important regional organization that Taiwan is part of. And how was the experience like attending that ministerial meeting on, among the APEC countries on human resources? And what are some of the challenges that APEC community faces in terms of human resource development in the future?
Yes, I was quite involved in the APEC activities, especially in the HRD, the Human Resources Development. They call working group. As I just mentioned, that the member economies of the APEC, they are at the very different levels of development. So you can see only from the human resources point of view, then there's a clear countries of labor export and countries of labor import. Like Taiwan, Singapore, Japan, all these countries. But Philippines, Indonesia, or even Thailand, Vietnam, they are the export of workers. And as we just mentioned, it's much easier to talk about goods, to talk about the investment, the capital movement. But when we come into the issue of human resources, then different position, different opinion, and it's become a very, very sensitive issue, especially if the countries experience some of these problems in making use of the human resources or labor force of the other country inappropriately. Then that's a conflict coming in.
Yeah, and as the president of the Population Association of Taiwan, you've also been to a lot of the international regional meetings that are related to labor issues at the international labor organizations. And how was the experience like? And what were some of the lessons that we could learn from some of the more developed countries in terms of how to manage their migration policy and also their human resources development? For example, from the US or from parts of the Western European countries.
Yes, in the past, I have been involved in several activities, including some of these meetings, research projects related to the International Labour Organization, related to United Nations University in Tokyo. And as you know, the ILO in Geneva. And I think the position of Taiwan or the situation of Taiwan has been noticed by the whole world. And it was in that capacity I was able to participate that, even though Taiwan is not a member of all these organizations. But many countries are interested in how Taiwan responds to the difficulties we had. The labor shortage in the mid-1980s until the 1990s, and how we opened up our labor importation schemes, and how we treat the foreign workers
in Taiwan.
Actually, Taiwan is, in some way, I would think, is more advanced or doing good in this aspect. But we still need to let the outside world what kind of efforts, what kind of programs we have to increase understanding and to let the whole world know what we are doing.
Okay. As we know, during last year's negotiation for ECFA, two of the things that our government was very insistent on not to let in from China, one was, of course, the Chinese agricultural products, and the other one is Chinese migrant labor into Taiwan. However, as two sides, China and Taiwan, become more economically interdependent, and now ECFA is also in place, effective, that this issue is bound to come up again, soon, in the future. And understand that we don't have a domestic consensus on this issue in Taiwan. Of course, last year, towards the end of the year, we were able to lower our unemployment rate to about approximately 4.5%. However, throughout most part of last year, it was over 5%, and it was already something very controversial in Taiwan. And do you think that in the future, when the subject comes up again, especially China today will be identified as a labor exporter, instead of importer, and this is something I suppose Beijing will pressure, in the future, that Taiwan has a lot of infrastructure project. You need a lot of laborers. Why not opening it up, not just to the ASEAN countries, but also to us? How would you think? How would you recommend to our government in terms of responding to similar requests if it happens, from Beijing?
Yes, I think, as we all understand, the interdependence would increase naturally, gradually, quickly, especially with ECFA. And China is going to come into this discussion on this issue, as we can expect. And the point I think we have to bear in mind is that we should bring it into the two-way interactions.
And make it reciprocal.
Reciprocal, and there are many other points we can raise up. And then when we do that, I think we have to bear in mind is the internal responses, as you just mentioned. And why is agricultural products and why is labor? Because these two sectors or these two segments related to the very disadvantaged group in the country.
Of course.
So I think no matter how we
need to be
deal
very
with, we have to
cautious.
Think that, cautious. How we are going to take care of these two groups.
Thank you, Professor Tsay. I certainly benefited a lot from our conversation today. I'm sure our audience feels the same way. We want to wish you all the best in the new year, and also everything professionally and on the personal level as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's my pleasure.
Thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on Macroview Television. Thank you very much.